Right, so my first approach tonight is the question of freedom and access, because I think in South Africa there's an assumption of openness, and for a variety of reasons that includes the media idea that if you have people phone in and tell you whatever they're thinking, you have free access or free debate. But just as an example, to get on to this campus, despite being there in the 1980s when the doors of learning and culture were going to have to be opened, I had to fill out a ridiculous piece of paper. So that's my first little access card issue. And it's the same when it comes to public debate. We have assumptions that just because people have access to a platform that they necessarily are able to participate there with a certain kind of democratic equality, which is not the case in South Africa. My second concern with the nature and quality of public debate and political debate in South Africa has to do with reading. And here I go via the poet Gabriel Zaid, for whom, and he's diagnosing Mexico, so once again South Africa is not that exceptional. It's a very small coterie of people who seem to be quoting one another, only reading whatever somebody else in their particular field is writing. It's a very closed circle. It's a very small community inside a country of 56 million people. And in a country of great inequality, the quality of the debate is also shaped by where people live. Location and locution have a certain relationship for me. So if you're living behind nice high walls in a gated community, your version of South Africa is a very specific one. And our politicians live inside such gated communities, and therefore their version of the country that they live in, report on, speak on behalf of, is a very particular version of this country. And so often there is a speaking on behalf of the non-elite, but speaking only to the other elites, people who have average incomes way above what the actual income mean for the country is. So the quality of debate for me in terms of political debate is stifled by those two issues. The third one, related to the reading of books issue, is the issue of literacy. And literacy, as I often have to tell students in lecture halls on campuses like these, is more than sounding out the letters and the words, that actually literacy requires so much more. And often we have people engaging in debates, including politicians, commentators, journalists, analysts, and I will not exclude people who are academics from this debate issue, academics who are actually just able to sound out the letters and the words. They actually have no real literacy. And this goes back to Gabriel Zaid, who says the majority of graduates in his experience, and he's taught at places like Harvard, don't understand more than the single paragraph. They struggle with the sentence. They have no idea how to summarize what an entire book is about. And often it's this focus on the minutiae in debates that leaves us with the kind of struggles that we have, where people actually haven't gotten the whole. They're focused on the specific. They're focused on the leaves, and they can't even see that they're on a planet, never mind that they're actually in a forest. So they don't understand that actually these small political debates that they're having about the backs and forths have a larger context, and it's that larger context which, if you raise it, you're called curmudgeonly, awkward, awful, or that you're simply not paying attention to the bread and butter issues, as it's often called. So for me, it's literacy, reading, small coteries of fellows supporting what I think of as boosterism, of people only talking to other people who think like them, think inside their little versions. And then the idea of entitlement. And here I don't mean the access entitlement, but the notion of titles. I'll close, so I'll beat David at his own game and actually have much less to say in fewer time. The titles that people fling around to legitimate themselves. One, the minister is my public servant and therefore is accountable to me. This idea that I should honor the minister and somehow should kowtow to the minister is for me absurd. Public servants work for me. So it's interesting that I'm expected to kowtow before them. And so in notions of debate, the question of who is actually the master of the domain becomes a question that very few people want to ask. Because there's this culture of respect, people have protocol. It's complete rubbish. In a democratic society, there shouldn't be things like VIPs, people with blue light brigades, metaphorically, not literally, who get to have the say and the rest of us have to listen. My closing remark is the title issue. A friend of mine was promoted to a full professorship in the university, and feeling feminine anxiety and its inadequacy syndrome, wrote to her partner and said she feels so inadequate about this. How do you manifest your life in this institution as a professor when there's so many other people who actually deserve it more? He wrote back to her from Chicago, where he was, and he said, I don't know why you're making such a big deal about this. Look around you. Look at who else is a professor. The title means nothing. So this is not two scathing remarks about professors on the panel with me, but it's about titles more generally in the country that we live in. There's this idea that people have earned their stripes and should be respected based on what they've done in the past, rather than what the content of their speech is in the moment of coming to speech. And this is a real problem in South Africa because we're all subjected to this culture, really restrictive issue of respect. I don't think in debate there needs to be respect. There needs to be mutual interaction on the same grounds. But this idea that simply because you're 89 years old, I should respect anything that you say, or because you once were part of a particular movement, I should respect you, is something that I find deeply distressing.